All right. Good evening, everybody. It is 10:30 on the East Coast, 7:30 on the West Coast for our currently still shifted by 1 hour weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there, and I'm not getting any video um, on our stream. Oh, there it goes. Okay, sorry about that. For a while there, our YouTube thing wasn't updating. And this is a little inside baseball for everybody. If people see me turning my head to the side occasionally, it's because I'm monitoring the stats on our stream, the health of our stream in real time.
It shouldn't
Um,
be that. They shouldn't be that busy. I mean, we have 0.5 active users right now on our stream.
my healthy stats now that we're getting a stream say two
Okay,
people,
all right.
everybody, in real time.
No offense to the two, but I'm just used to it being 0.5. I'm very fascinated by that zero point 0.5. Is it, what kind of apparition it is and stuff.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah,
cool.
it's I believe that point five is a ghost that has long since haunted my, just it's always there.
Yeah.
We've got one person saying I'm a real person viewing in real time. He just said that in
Oh,
the
geez.
in the
Well, that's
comments.
cool.
So he's real, everybody. He's real.
Okay. All right. I'll take your word for it, I guess. Um, so I'm going to resume doing the townsfolk thing, and we can just chat away as we have been, I guess.
That sounds good. Have you watched anything fascinating, exciting recently?
I'm trying to think here. I have been watching. I don't know if you've been watching. I don't know if you have Showtime anytime, but
No.
me and I've been watching this show called The Judge with Cranston, the guy from
Oh, I've
Breaking
heard of it.
Bad.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I know what show you're talking about. Yeah.
It seems like another type of those shows where you're watching. I don't want to give away too much, but it is very. It seems to me he picked this role because it's very Breaking Badish as far as the central character is concerned. I don't
Hmm.
think that's giving too much away. Let me share my screen and
It's
we'll
in.
get.
Oh, what's going to happen here? What? Oh, I didn't
Oh
have to
wow!
do
It actually
anything.
wow. I didn't have to- I was trying to
See,
throw it. I was trying to throw a fast one, and you just kind of just do it. And
old dogs can
what
learn
the
new
heck?
tricks every once in a
Oh
while.
my gosh! Well, I'll enjoy it for what we have today. That's cool.
Um. So you
Anyway,
say,
so
yeah.
yeah, I'm watching The Judge. What are you watching?
I am watching nothing that's relevant to the stream right now. I'm watching a British news comedy show called Mock the Week. That's what I've
Okay.
been obsessed with recently.
All right.
Yeah, so, but I have been playing a lot of the Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity.
It's funny. I've been seeing the ads for it, and I've been, and in my head, I'm thinking I gotta ask Eric if he's actually, because I know you usually get those first party Nintendo
Yeah, you know me. I mean, look
games.
look at
Yeah.
behind me. It's just
Yeah.
sort of everywhere,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That's my poison. We've talked about that in the past.
Yeah.
Some people their obsession is Disney, and mine is Nintendo.
I think Nintendo's a much more, even though they can be considered an evil empire too, they're a little bit more. Um, they're not long enough in the tooth to where you can get too jaded with them just yet, but they're getting
They're
there.
getting there. They're getting there. I
Yeah.
mean, the company's over 100 years old.
Yeah. 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 That's true. But I guess whereas Disney, they've been doing their animation thing and doing it for X amount of time
Yeah,
forever.
yeah.
Nintendo's kind of what have they done? They did like trading cards for a little while.
Yeah, they did trading cards for a really long time, and then they got into the more traditional toy market.
Yeah. So
And then yeah, and then eventually they got into consumer electronics, and then the rest, as they say, is history.
see, and you can tell I'm giving them a pass because of that. Like I don't want to hate on them too much, but yet I know that they are considered one of the evil empires soon enough. They're getting there. There's plenty of complaints about them.
Well,
As
PETA certainly hates them.
PETA,
Oh
really?
God. Oh, are you kidding
Why?
me?
Because of Animal Crossing or
Enemy. Yeah,
something?
oh yeah. Animal Crossing is one of it, but Pokemon actually more
Why?
because the concept of you capturing and enslaving animals.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I'm all for the good-hearted purpose for what PETA does, but these are digital creatures. They're not. They don't have any pain.
Well, PETA doesn't exactly have a sense of humor, so
Yeah, that's
or a sense of proportionality either. So it is what it is. But In any case, yeah. So the biggest thing I will say about Age of Calamity
Hmm.
is that it is a game in an art style that I love, and it's a game I actually like. And I know that this is a highly controversial opinion, and we will probably lose all of our viewers for me acknowledging this in a public forum. But
Yeah.
I did not like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
know.
know.
You and I have talked about this.
It's shocking. I'm aware. I accept that I am a failure of a human being for
You're
not
the only
liking the
person
game.
in the whole world that I know of that does not like the new Zelda. I haven't played it, so I have no opinion on it yet, but I'm assuming I'll like it.
Well, one of our viewers say that they don't like it either. So
So there's two people.
yeah,
The
yeah, we have
the
our
one
numbers are at
viewer,
3 right now. Our Google robot and 2 actual human beings.
that's the
I assume one of them is here by accident and doesn't
I bet
actually
you
know how they got here and can't figure out how to leave the stream.
I bet you anything the Google robot's the one that doesn't like the Zelda game because it's data mined you and it knows what your likes and dislikes are,
Yes.
and now it's just parroting what you need to hear.
Yes, that's
Get rid of
exactly
that.
correct. Yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
our viewer who doesn't like it says that there are dozens of us in the world, and I agree.
Dozens.
Dozens is
That's
probably the right
hilarious.
approximation.
Yeah, no.
We could go into very deep design philosophy discussions on why I didn't like Breath of the Wild. But the one thing I did love about, well, there's 2 things I really loved about the game.
Okay.
Was the art style. One
Yeah.
of my favorite art styles ever. Quite frankly, I love every character design, every color palette. I adore looking at that game.
Okay.
And then the climbing. I just the ability to just climb anywhere, and you see a mountain, you go, can I get to the top of that? I'll give it a try. I
Okay.
love that. Right.
I want to pause for a second on this. Well, not pause, but I want to kind of stay on this subject for a
Yeah.
second.
Okay.
Well, to me, climbing seems pretty redundant. For example, I was playing Ghosts of Tsushima. I can't even pronounce the name.
Tsushima. Yeah.
That game that everybody else loves that I'm sort of neutral with.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of falling into the same category.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a climbing aspect to that game, and I'm over climbing ever since Assassin's Creed 2. There's nothing special about climbing anymore, unless like so.
Yes,
Would
I
that
agree
be
100%, and I
okay?
still loved the climbing in Breath of
And
the
so,
Wild.
so what?
The thing about it is that, like, in particular Assassin's Creed, the climbing is automatic.
Yeah.
It was basically a physics animation system,
Hmm.
right? You pressed forward on the stick and held the run button, and then the game animated the character up to the top of a building. Okay.
Yeah.
It was a fun novelty for a lot of games. Like, I liked Assassin's Creed 1 through the whole Ezio trilogy, right?
Hmm.
But by the time Assassin's Creed 3 came around, it was, yeah, the novelty had worn off, and they weren't really doing anything to continue to expand or develop that mechanic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, once you learn the rules of what you need to look for in Assassin's Creed, then it does get kind of boring. But I will say this: I always felt like there was a need to get up there to get eagle sight or whatever you want to call it at the top of the tower to see more of the map. You know what I mean? Like there's always that type of thing. But with other games now that use this climbing mechanic, I just roll my eyes. I just
yeah,
don't.
no, I
Just feel
agree.
like an obstacle just to slow down the game for some reason.
No, I agree. I think to a large extent, Assassin's Creed is a victim of its own success, right? It really pioneered this
Yep,
climb anything, and then everybody's like, oh, this is cool. And then everybody did
everybody did it.
exactly the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I did work on an open world game called Infamous 2, where they did try to mix it up a little bit, where you actually it wasn't an animation based system. You would cling to a surface and then you'd have to jump by pressing the jump button to the next surface, and you actually had to aim your jump and things like that, right?
Oh, see now, Infamous 2. Those are the same people that made Ghosts of.
Ghost of Tsushima, right?
I
Exactly.
don't. I don't recall having to jump anywhere. I just remember. I don't know. It has been about a good year just before pre-COVID, I think. Whatever.
Yeah,
When I
yeah.
put it down. Anyway, so back to Breath of the
Oh,
Wild.
so in any case, yeah. But what they do in that game is similar to, like I said, with Infamous 2, and in the Crackdown series as well. It does a really good job of actually gameplayizing climbing again, right? Rather than just
Okay.
making it an animation tool.
Hmm.
Breath of the Wild, the climbing mechanic is actually a mechanic. It's actually fun to do. It's fun to interact with, right? And so yes, climbing in an open world game feels almost as cliched as, you know, um, um, any cliche that you want to come up with. I'm sorry, I just immediately drew a blank in that instant. But it actually is really, really fun to climb things in that game. So, art style, climbing. There's not a lot of climbing in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity because it's a Moshu style action game, which is a style of action game that Tecmo or no KOE, sorry, came up with, where it's just one hero fighting hundreds and hundreds of enemies at the same time, right? And that's, there's a million of them. Dynasty Warriors 1 through Infinity. They did an Onimusha one, Gundam one, and in the last several years, Nintendo has tapped them to do Nintendo-themed ones. And they're fun. They're mindless, but they're fun.
So what kind of style of game? Is this considered a genre of game now at this point, the Dynasty Warriors style game?
Yeah, Moshu. Yeah, Moshou, I think. Moshu. Okay. Moshao. Yeah, I'm forgetting my Japanese pronunciation. Okay. So it's a pretty distinct style of action brawler. And, again, we could discuss the lineage of where it came from, but that's probably a little bit too game design geeky.
Well, I mean,
even for an animation, especially for an animation.
Well, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, for recency reference, then yes, we'll just use what we got.
Yeah. But in any case, so they've taken an art style that I adore and put it into a gameplay system that I enjoy. And it's like, oh, cool, finally. So, yeah. So that's what I've been playing recently. I finished off Astral Chain as well, Platinum's action game on the Switch.
How many hours is Astral Chain?
To me, it's a pretty standard. Well, it's about as long as Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2 are.
Okay.
But the difference is that, the Bayonetta, when I finished the main game, I wanted to keep playing. I did the New Game Plus. I started going through on a different difficulty level. When I finished Astral Chain, I was like, nah, I'm good. And that was it. I turned it off, and I haven't turned it back on since.
So the replay value is kind of lacking?
I don't find the combat system as compelling as Bayonetta's. And in Platinum games, the combat system is kind of, that's it. That's all there is to the game.
Okay.
In a lot of instances. Now Bayonetta has a really fun story, which is rare, but but generally speaking, I play Platinum games for the gameplay only and fast forward through all the cutscenes.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Again, you and I have geeked out on Platinum before. They're awesome. They can really do no wrong. I mean, loved Vanquished, loved Bayonetta. I haven't played Bayonetta 2 yet, but
it's phenomenal. I like it way more than the first one.
Is it it is 2 players, right?
Yeah, well, there is a 2-player co-op mode, but you can't go through the storyline in 2 players.
Okay.
Yeah, and you probably missed it because no one played it, but it was also phenomenally good. Mad World on the Wii of all things.
Yeah, I stared at that. I picked it up many a time at the game store, Best Buy, etc. I never got it. The art style looked interesting because it was a lot of
black and white. Yeah, and they did a great job with it. And then they got John DiMaggio, who is one of my favorite voice actors of all time. He did Bender on Futurama, most notably. Then he did Marcus Phoenix in Gears of War. And now he is currently playing the king of the fairy tale land in Matt Groening's new cartoon, Disenchantment. See, It always does come back to animation in our animation live stream.
It all kind of does blend together. I mean, the talent is used all across the
board. It actually really is. As games become more like just animated movies in a lot of ways, you do see a lot of bleed over of people they want to keep doing animation, but they kind of want to change a pace, right? They're a little burnt out on traditional animation, so they want to go into games and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, John DiMaggio and Greg Proops, who, for any fan of improv, knows him from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
And which guy is he?
He was the one with the glasses and had kind of a bit of a pompadour. He was in the original British series and then was in the U.S. series for a while when Drew Carey was still hosting.
Okay.
You might recognize him as the voice of the commentator in the pod race in Star Wars Episode One: The
Okay.
Phantom Menace,
Hmm.
and then he had a short-lived game show, quiz show on Comedy Central, the name of which is escaping me right now.
Okay.
But he is the other commentator for the game, and they have a great chemistry together. And I feel like Platinum and Sega had them like made them hate their lives because they recorded so much color commentary. It's impressive how much color commentary they recorded to make it work for this game.
I mean, if you book talent for an hour, you want to get as much, you know.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if they're union for sure. So they're they're you can only you have to book them for at least a half day, right?
Yeah.
So which is I can't remember if it's 4 hours or 6 hours off the top of my head. Um,
There's no limit, right? Within that hour, if you can get 100 lines out of them or
Absolutely.
something,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
totally that's
Yep.
totally doable, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So
Yeah, exactly. Now, that was a long time ago, and back in 2017, actors went on strike against the games industry specifically for to negotiate better rights. And I remember, God, this is a real rambling stream tonight, isn't it? I remember when this occurred because one of the interesting fallouts from it is it renewed the push to get game developers to unionize.
hmm.
Because voice actors, for their work on a video game, are paid more than most people who actually make the video game.
Yeah, and that's all because of the inheriting that type of mindset from TV and film and
Absolutely,
everything
yeah,
else, right?
that's right. If you want to work
So
with union actors in a video game, in a video game, you have to pay union rates, and
yeah,
because video games are not union, they don't have that kind of same luxury to make the same demands. And so it was really interesting to see the fallout of this. I mean, and I kind of agree with him. There were a few actors on a couple of the games that I've worked on that got paid $200,000,
hmm.
and they worked on the game for a sum total of 12 hours, and I got
Wow.
paid $80,000,
Hmm.
and I worked on the game for longer than I should have.
Yeah, wait for it, and then yeah, that's exactly what I was expecting for the answer. Um, yeah, but it's funny you can't if your game is heavily reliant on a voice, it's weird. You have to kind of
You can do it like companies like Nintendo and a few other developers do, and they use only non-union talent. But the
yeah.
problem is it's like a pool of 12 people, and you keep hearing the same voices over and over and over and over again.
So my belief, especially with how we work with Calamity Jane. I'm all about the garage thing because that's where I came from. But I don't.
Sure.
I'm all for unions too. I mean,
Yeah,
but
I mean, this wasn't a commentary pro or against unions. It was more
yeah,
of a
yeah, yeah. I'm totally because I've back in the WB days, we worked with union guys too, and people just that would just send in demo reels of their voice and stuff. And there's a lot of talent. If you just have to put the work in, you can hear a lot of really good talent. Voice actors
mm-hmm,
are just trying to
mm-hmm.
break in, so you want to give them a shot too. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I feel as a artiste, whatever. As we're trying to make something, Um,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love listening to actors read my work in auditions. Like one of my favorite moments in video game development actually had nothing to do with video game development. I was working on Infamous 2,
mhm,
and I was the cinematics producer on that project. And
mhm.
we were casting for one of the characters, a militia leader who was fighting against a corrupt mayor in a New Orleans esque town. And the creative director, who was also the lead writer on the project, had given this character a last name, LaRoche, and that was it, right? And
Mhm.
I gave him a first name, Roscoe, and it stuck. And people really liked his name, Roscoe.
Okay.
And the creative director, because he was doing so many things, didn't have time to manage the casting for this character. And so I got to write the casting dialogue that actors read against and submitted for consideration. And uh, it was pretty great to have actors like Fred Tatasciore and Ken Keeler uh, um, and oh my god, I literally just blanked on the guy who actually played it. Oh, Jim Meskimen, who's an amazing impressionist. You probably
So
recognize him from like Parks and Recreation. He was a bunch of characters in that show, and
okay. So
um,
names you're saying like they're going over my head unless you attach the actual character that they're associated with in fiction land, I
I
think.
mean, just a million things. Like these guys are just they're luminaries of cartoon voice actors. Like they've
Okay.
done everything.
Okay.
Um, and it was amazing listening to them read my like silly one paragraph thing, right? And we ended up casting Jim Meskimen, and he was in, and on his first day of shooting down at on the mocap stage, he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, when are we going to do the scene where I get to read that speech um, to the militia?" And I'm like, "Oh, that was just a casting dialogue. I wrote that for auditions. That's not actually in the game." And he went, "Oh, that sucks. That was my favorite line of dialogue on the whole game." I'm like, "Oh!"
And they didn't even use it.
But they didn't even use it. That's totally fine though.
Oh, you could have still had him. I mean, if you had extra time, you could have just had him read it, and then you could just have it.
I know. That's a good
Right.
point. I should have had him do it. I was so above board back in the day. Like, I didn't keep any of that stuff.
I, oh,
I
it's so
totally
boring.
should have, but oh well.
Oh, hmm. Um, that that's pretty cool. I mean, the fact that you get to you were in a sound booth, right, or sound stage watching these
Oh
people.
yeah, yeah, down in Culver City on Sony's lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was a hard job, but it was one of my favorites.
Yeah, it all comes back to video games and or animation.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the thing too, and this is a really good opportunity. I mean, so much of the techniques of, and in this, usually, well, no, I mean, because you do 2D games, but um, there's so much bleed over in animation between games and movies and television, right?
Hmm.
In the video game, a 2D video game, you'll have things like a sprite sheet,
Hmm.
which is a series of still images of the character who you want to animate in all of their different animation poses, right? And like Mario's sprite sheet in the original Super Mario Brothers, I think it was a 3 or 4 frame animation. So his sprite sheet was 3 frames of the
Uh,
same, of this character in different poses. And the way you animate through that, or one of the ways you can manage it, is you draw this on a single image. So you load that one file into memory, and
mhm.
then when you want to draw to the screen, you reference a block of memory starting at the address in memory that that image is located, and then you iterate the the count by the resolution of the sprite across the sprite frame, and then you just loop it around. And as the draw call to put it on the screen continues to be updated, the character begins to animate on the screen, and that's no different than drawing a single frame of a character on a sheet of paper, right, on an animator's board, and flipping through it
Mhm.
on the tracing sheets to see it animate in real time, right? There's a lot of similar techniques between how animation works in games and how it works in more traditional animation spaces.
Well, speaking of animation, back to Calamity Jane,
Oh yeah, right. This cartoon we're making.
the cartoon we're making here. I am working on this character. I don't want to give too much away,
Mm-hmm.
but when I was working on her, I kept thinking about a particular character that comes in later,
Mm-hmm.
supposedly in another season.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know whether we should just use her as a townsperson instead, and then I'll just redesign this
Oh,
character later.
interesting.
Anyways, so I guess as from what you're seeing, this character's kind of been front and center tonight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts? Is she just a townsperson to you? Do you see anything I mean, I know they all kind of do. They
I
all
know.
kind of. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you got a crocodile for crying out loud. So I don't know. I mean,
I know which character you're referencing, and obviously it's
okay.
definitely not going to go into
See,
details
so
about
there.
that.
See, so it
But
does resonate with you too. I
sure.
didn't have to say anything. I use my mind meld powers with you to
Yeah.
say this is what she reminds me of. She's not completely there. See, how we're talking. We're all
No, I
talking.
agree. I agree. Her outfit definitely needs a lot of love if you want to take her in that
Yes,
direction.
if she gets to that status, of course. Yeah,
Um, I do. I love the hair. I love the blue highlights. And I love her shape. I think it's just a nice form for that character. Um, as it stands, though, yeah, I guess it really is up to you. I'd be fine taking this character off the lineup and turning her into our later season actual protagonist, and then just spending more time developing it.
yeah,
And then just replacing our coming up with a new townsfolk for the lineup.
yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna think about it,
Because
but
I
I
love
mean,
the hair and I love the face. I just that sassy face is perfect.
yeah. See, but yeah, I'll leave her be for now, and she'll be a bookmark townsperson for now, meaning there's
Okay.
something else to her. But
Well,
all of them have something to them, but just for her, because I have an affinity for certain characters in our world. Um, yeah, I guess I do have some biases, I guess. But anyway, whatever. Let me go back to this guy,
okay,
Hector, real quick.
Hector.
I remember last week you said like I can't remember if it was offline we talked about it or during the stream, but you were talking about how you would like to see that shadow underneath his brim. To kind
Yeah,
of,
and the for whatever reason, because I can't see his eyebrows, even though it's just two rectangles, he kind of looks like he has a slight smile on his face right now.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Here's my rule. Now I could
I
break it.
do love the square nose though. I really love how angular this character is.
Yeah, I'm liking that too. I totally hear what you're saying about how he doesn't really his nature has changed compared to, and this happens with everything.
Can
Once you go
can
in the
we
power.
just go back to the thumb real quick,
Yeah,
just to
hang on a
see.
second. There he is.
You see, I mean, and yeah, so his lips are downturned,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then
Yep.
you've got the sombrero is actually cutting off his eyes a little bit more, which is giving him that more kind of squinty look. And then the shading, those three things are what takes him from the smiling Hector to angry Hector in
Mm-hmm.
the thumbnail.
Mm-hmm. And also, he is a little bit more fatter. I put more pounds on him too.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think the weight looks good. I like the width of his head more actually, like
yeah.
this. Yeah,
So,
because
so here's the
it goes well with his square nose.
so here's the challenge. So as I make these characters, there's we always put rules in place when we're designing characters and stuff. So one of the rules is there's no gradients and or alpha channels on anything. It's either on or off switch. It's either going to be
Hmm.
green or not green, dark green or you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So
no,
with him,
I agree.
so with him, if I was to do that, I'm just going to entertain this now and just do it for fun. But if I was to make a shadow piece, and I'm being literal about this now, I could actually paint this, but let me just try this first.
Okay.
Um, I go to let's say we'll go to 50%. And we will make this gray. We'll just be literal about it. Okay. And this goes over his face. I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll cover all of his eyes for now.
Okay.
Go like that.
That already makes a difference, though.
See, and so I'm breaking my rule.
Well,
But I could actually paint. Now this is where I'm OCD. This is the fun thing about being an animator. I think a lot of animators would have this thing where we're OCD about stuff. We're following a rule.
hmm
But I agree with you. I hear you from an outsider perspective. Yeah, I mean this is closer to what he's supposed to be.
could you do, because I feel like if you drop the shade and then
I
push
can
his,
I can literally paint a brown stripe across
yeah,
his
that's
face
true.
and get away with that. But whatever, it's easier. I've already done it. Does it
Yeah,
matter?
and then I think what actually will make a bigger difference, and I know I love the rectangular mouth, but making it a little bit more of a frown
Yeah, I
adding
agree.
the little bit of the downturns on the edges, like in the thumbnail, will probably help as well. Yeah. Yeah. Again, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a little bit closer. It's interesting though that when you do the complete chevron like that, it's actually softer than when his mouth was straight across
Straight.
and then only
Hmm.
down at the edges.
Yeah, because your eyes only seeing a harsh one binary line is going. There's no breaking it to
Right.
make your eye get relaxed.
Right.
But
Exactly.
we also associate the frown. I mean, that's you. So that's just the struggle that you and I are
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
seeing.
Um,
I'm down with. I mean, the shade. I'm breaking the rule for Hector's going to be the one that breaks the rules, but I will leave the shading in like that. I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, he's in the background. He doesn't have any significant parts, and I don't know why I'm fussing over that. I'm just
we
being.
can bend the rules sometimes as long as we don't make a habit of it. I mean, in this instance, I think it makes the character better.
Yeah.
Um, and as long as we use it sparingly, and again, if you really wanted to be a stickler about it, you could go back and just make a box of that color, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than
The
using a
answer is
gradient.
different. Hmm.
So we're not totally breaking the rules. You're just breaking the rules by cheating instead of
Yes, I
doing
am
the
cheating,
extra
and I don't
work.
mind doing that one bit for since it's just a two-man crew these days.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well,
yeah.
we're at 31 minutes. I think
Okay.
that was pretty good. That was a long rambling conversation, but one of my favorite hobbies in the world is to ramble aimlessly. So, you know, I
I
feel
hope
like
so.
I got something out of tonight. I don't know that anybody else did, but I'm satisfied.
Well, that's good. At least somebody in the world is satisfied. You and our apparition, I think, will be
That's right.
plenty happy. You
That's
know.
right. But in any case, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We love having a live audience with us. It'll be live on YouTube shortly after this, and you can find it at all the places, Facebook and Patreon in particular. You can visit our Patreon site at calamityjane.rocks. That'll actually forward you directly to our Patreon site. And then on Facebook at Calamity Jane Adventure Hour. And in the meantime, we will see you next week, probably still at 10:30 East Coast, 7:30 West Coast, and that'll probably be the case for a couple more weeks at least.
Mhm.
And then we'll see what happens from there. But in the meantime, thank you for hanging out with us for a little bit, and we will see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Everybody, stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe. All right. Good night, all.